talked about the past.
Yeah, Luluhurst. What a fun adventure that was. What a fun adventure that
We've
was.
talked about the present.
Carissa Hendricks. What a fun adventure that was.
So now I want to take you on another adventure.
Okay.
And this one was a solo adventure that I did, so I want to bring you into it.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is the present and the future together.
Interesting.
Because I have the pleasure of sitting down with a good friend. And she is a wonderful magician, one of the most creative minds I know.
Super sweet, too. Very just nice human being overall.
So we met actually at Tannen's Magic Camp.
Okay.
A couple years back. So that's when we met, followed each other on the socials.
Yep.
She posts a lot of magic on social media, and she's gotten herself a nice couple thousand people following her.
1,000 people with some very creative, original magic.
Yes, she has things, she's been on a number of podcasts. I think she's published an effect as well.
Has she really?
She's the real deal.
That's so cool.
So, I sat down with Amanda Nepo, and we had a nice conversation about her magic, her creative process, and how she views our art. So to close this segment of this month that we're doing, I want to take you and invite you and all of you to join my conversation with Amanda. Hello, Amanda, and thank you for joining us here today on Ungimmick. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I want to start today by asking you about one of your main outlets for your magic, which is social media. You do a lot of work there, a lot of new creative things. What brought you to the social media world? Why was that your first outlet?
Well, I started magic because I found magic through like YouTube and social media and all that. So it originally started, I wanted to do the 365-day project thing where you do a magic trick every day. I only did it for the summer though. I don't recommend it. I don't think it's that good because you just end up posting a lot of crappy magic. But I ended up starting with that. And then from there, I just kept going, and it turned out to sort of be an outlet for my creativity in a sense that like I could just create new magic tricks and just small things and just post out my ideas. And yeah, it was just really fun to like have something to work for, to work towards, and to sort of like have a goal in mind of, hey, I want to create something. And yeah.
I see a lot of value in that crappy magic though. And I'm sure that when you did that summer of magic, then yeah, I'm going to guess that you might have learned more with or you might have grown more with the days that you're like, that wasn't as good, as with the days that you found them, that you were proud straight away and it just clicked.
Yeah, definitely. I think in some ways it taught what worked and what didn't. Gave me a gauge on what sort of the social media feeling would be like and how to like film and all that. So yeah.
And then contrasting with then in-person performances, how do you differentiate between the two? Let me ask this question in a better way. How do you prepare before you perform a trick on social media, and how do you prepare before you perform a trick to a person? Because a camera and people are naturally different.
I'd say the performance style would be a big thing, because I'll just go social media wise, because I think most people sort of have an idea on what in person is like. But for social media, it's a lot of quick things, and it's generally like, I sort of think like if you were to have like your magic show, your opener, it's just a bunch of small openers in that sort of sense. So it's very much just, I want to grab your attention quickly, show you what I want to show, and then you can continue on. Where I think in person, again, you can have things be longer and sort of just like build more on your acts and put more into it and things like that. Obviously, method-wise is different, but I think a big thing that's different is that for social media, it should be like, it's tend to be more visual and stuff, and less of, you can't really focus on like, let's say, misdirection, which I think is a very powerful thing that you can use in person, and a bunch of other small things that like people know about in person that you can't really use for the camera, because the camera is just zooming right in on what you're doing.
Yeah, we always say the camera doesn't move, the eyes do, right? You can always call on somebody. If you say somebody's name, their head's going to pop up. The camera's going to stay right there. So it's continuously burning you. But I think it's interesting what you bring up. It's just a series of openers. Do you think there is space for social media magic to grow to a point that you perform just closers, where and closers in the sense that there's a bigger buy-in, but then there's also a bigger payoff.
Um, I'm not. So you're saying like instead of it just being openers, it'd be like closers and bigger effects as well?
Well, I'm trying to see where else this could go, because the way that we see social media magic, most of it is exactly as you describe it. They're quick things to grab your attention and keep your attention for a short period of time. Now, do you think that there is a way to construct an effect that maybe requires that little bit more of a buy-in, that needs you to spend those 10 or 15 seconds investing, but then you can also get a bigger payoff on the other side?
I mean, I've never really thought of it in that way, but I guess like again, you could say like it's an opener, it draws you to your account, and then from there you can lead on to bigger things. Or maybe it's just you have like I know like for Instagram there are like you can have I think it's like IGTV where they can be longer, so you could have like maybe it's just the opener there and then you can hit click and see more of it. But I'd say uh, social media wise, at least, if you want to be successful, the sort of sad part is generally consistency. Sometimes, in my opinion, is more valuable to have if you want to really grow in social media rather than quality, which I try not to do. For me, sorry, this is going on a little rant.
Absolutely, no, go on all of
No, no.
them.
So for me, I use I use mostly Instagram as a way to just have a easy way to put out ideas, but I want it to be good magic. But I'd say if there was somebody who wanted to um, really go off on social media, then it's more about consistency and just putting out a bunch of videos. And even if it's not the best magic, somebody would keep seeing it and seeing it, and that generally makes your account successful. So although I do social media magic, I think the parts of it that end up being successful are not the parts that I tend to focus on.
I was talking to a friend of mine. She's an actress, and she was saying when she has to go to an audition or an actor, a musician, if they're not as good on the presentational side, or if they fail on a certain aspect, they've failed completely, because the art that they do is what they do. And she was comparing it to magic in the way that we are lucky in the sense that even if we are not that interesting, or if something doesn't go as well, it can still be exciting in the sense that people can't explain it, and you get that magical feeling. So in a way, I think that consistency could just be appealing to that intrinsic wow factor. And as long as you can get those consistent wows, even if small, you don't think it matters as much if it's well thought out, or I think good is I don't want to use good, because good can go
Sure,
many
yeah.
ways. Um, but I agree with you, and I think it's an interesting way to view what we do. That even if it's not perfect, if there's a lot of it, it'll still generate interest. Where I see maybe a mix of social media magic and in-person magic would maybe be street magic, where you do need to be
Mm.
quick in your approach and grab somebody's attention, but you're performing for a person, not a camera. I don't know if you do a lot of street magic or a lot of like stand-up one-on-one performances.
I don't do a lot of like street magic. I mean, like I've performed and I do a lot of close up, I guess, but uh, I I don't do a lot of street magic. Although I think it would be fun and interesting to do.
So in the close-up that you do you tend to do formal close-up uh, at a table, like sit down at a table, work with your props, or do you try to make it on a more informal type, more in living room settings, people in a
Yeah.
semicircle?
Generally, it's more of the informal type for in person, or maybe if I'm having a gig, it would usually be like walk around. Uh, But there are sometimes where I have like little like if I'm doing like maybe a kid's birthday party because I'm so young, so I don't have like the biggest gigs ever. Generally, that'll just be like a show. But right now, it's a lot of formal table stuff because we're on Zoom. So I don't do a lot of Zoom shows, but when I do sort of Zoom performances, It's actually usually the setup. I have a table, and then I'll do my magic there.
And I know you're not the biggest fan of just card tricks. So,
No.
so we share that. I think that, and this is a Joshua J. Thought that he was, and a lecture that he was giving, that people don't remember card tricks. They don't remember triumph and an ambitious card is different. They would just remember them as card tricks. They will remember card tricks differently if there's a third element associated or an extraneous element associated with it, and it becomes the dice trick, even though it is a card trick that you use dice in. When you do then your magic, do you look, even if you're doing a card trick, do you look to incorporate something else, or are you like, no, cards can stand aside. I want to play with objects XYZ.
I say I do like playing with cards, and kind of as you were saying, like I like to add a different aspect in instead of it just being cards. I think parts of things that I don't really like about cards, which is maybe just because I've seen so many card effects, is that I feel like it's a card trick and not magic. And like, do you kind of get the feel that I'm getting? I don't know how to explain that, but like, I kind of want to present, for me, I want to present my magic as being whatever magical effect I'm doing it, and it just happens to be that I'm using a deck of cards to demonstrate that. So that's kind of how I want to play it, instead of, I feel like a lot of times it's like pick a card, or I don't know, that's like the basic thing, but you get what I'm saying. Like, instead of it being a card trick, I'd want it to just be magic, and I happen to use cards and all that. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. So the cards become your tool to, and I know story is another one of those words that gets thrown around a lot, but there is an intent with it. You're not doing your magic just to fool people or to get a trick. Trick is a word that I hate, because I never want to trick anybody. If anything, I want to present them something cool, something interesting, something that's going to puzzle them for the rest of the day. And they're going to be like, what the hell did I just see? So that's why trick is a word that's not great. And when you bring out cards, people will call them card tricks.
Yeah.
So, and in the way that, since you create a lot of your stuff, and I was listening to an interview that you did with Penguin Live or Penguin Magic, and you were talking about how you just have an idea about an object and then you decide to do it. And in that interview in specific, they were talking about a trick they did with a packet of gum. So how does that inspiration come? Is it really on the daily? You just look at something and you're like, that keychain would be something cool with it. If I could do this, and then do you jump to building straight away? Do you spend... This is a very long question that I'm asking you. I am sorry.
It's mostly like initial idea, doesn't matter what it is. It could even just be like just a small like fun fact or whatever it is. It's sort of like around life, and whenever anything's happening, I take note of whatever those specific things happen. Usually I'll like write it in notes or something, and depending on if I like it, then from there I go and I'll just start asking questions. So I'll maybe, depending if it's an object or a thought, I'll just kind of dive deep into everything about that. And from there, and especially this is kind of just practice in a sense, but like ideas and effects start coming up. And from there, it's kind of just a lot of decision making on what you want to perform, what kind of effect that you want to have. Then I generally go from effect then to method. Usually, I know there's like a whole big thing with that, but like, so I'll visualize, have the effect in mind on how I want to perform it, and then from there I'll think of methods, how I want it to work, things I already know, and then if not, then create my own new method.
I think we're very similar in that creation process. I have a little notebook with like 50 tricks that are written, and I know exactly what needs to happen, but they have no method because, well, it doesn't exist yet. So so it's not even necessarily an object or a magic piece that you think of. It's just a little bit of inspiration that hits you, and then you try to bring magic out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I could give like a small example. This is like, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago or something. I had an idea with like, I was like in a restaurant with my parents, and there was the little cork thing, and we were playing the game where you try to drop it and have it land vertical. Do you know that? Does that like So yeah, we were trying to play that, and I noticed that when it happened, I was like, "Oh, that kind of looks really cool." Like it's just kind of magical how it just stands up. So then from there, again, that's kind of the original idea, inspiration. And from there, I asked questions on what I wanted to be, and then I sort of narrowed it down to what if I could do it, but without using my fingers. And then I just like made an effect where like basically you place it on a table. I like go like this, go down and up, and then it's from being horizontal to vertical. So I'd say like that's like a quick like if you were just go through my brain on what happens, that's sort of the way. I don't know. I kind of skipped over things, but yeah.
What you're getting at to me is very familiar because I feel like you're describing what goes inside my own brain. It's something catches my attention. I'm like, that's cool. How can that be magic? How can that be
Mhm.
more than a trick?
Yeah.
It's always the most fun way to go about it. And I know you also want to do stage. Is that still something that you're interested on? And how do you transition from doing cards and social media, so a closed environment, to then branching out onto the stage?
I mean, it's definitely a would be a new environment for me. I mean, I guess like bigger tricks and all that. Obviously, I think.
And even in regards to your
Uh,
ideas, do you already have ideas that are towards stage and you're like, one day I'll get to do that? Or when you have an idea, you still narrow it to a more close-up setting?
Yeah, and for those, it's kind of like what you're saying. Like, I'll have the idea and then I'll just kind of put it aside for when I can do it later. Or like sometimes I'll have ideas and generally I'm actually when I like think of like methods and all, I think of very complex ones first and then realize they don't work and have to narrow it down to a simpler one. So sometimes I'll have an idea and it's like really complex and then like obviously I don't have the time or whatever things to figure out how to make that. And so generally, I'll just either put that to a side until I learn something or learn more about it to see if I can figure out a way to do it, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Is that like a good answer? What
That's
you thinking?
perfect. I'm not incredibly magic, like a very well read in magic. I have a couple of books, and I've watched a couple of lectures, but sometimes I don't know what is possible and impossible. So when I think of a method, I'm like, this would be cool if I did, and then I start drawing it out and thinking about it. I'm like, oh no, this would cost $3,000, and I would need, it's like, no, it doesn't work. But I think those are the most valuable ideas, though. The ones that push us to our limits and push what exists, the art to its limits, and that's how we make progress. The way that I see it.
Definitely, definitely, yeah. No, I mean, I'd say not just for stage magic, but any magic. I think it's exciting to come up with a new idea that really hasn't been explored because especially for me, I also besides just like making magic, like I create gimmicks. So learning how to build something new, maybe it doesn't work for that effect, but now I know how to build something to work for a different effect, or whatever it is. It's just a new piece of information that I've discovered that I can put onto something else. You know.
Thank you for talking to me about your creative process. I've learned that it's very similar to my own, which fills me with confidence that I'm doing the right thing, because I see that you are. And as maybe to start wrapping it up, I want to ask two things about the future. One is about how do you see the future? I asked you a little bit about it, so I'm going back to it. What do you see as the future of social media magic? Do you think it's going to be, hey, here's a trick? Do you think that it's going to become a bit more cinematographic as access to cameras and editing becomes more widespread? How do you see this new part of magic evolving?
I mean, personally, I don't think it will go into video editing just because I think that's a different sort of genre. If you're saying from magic to that, I think it will stay as magic. Uh, I think we've already been seeing this, but I think it will definitely go into more optical illusions or quick facts and like sort of like more in the sciencey of oh look this is something that's cool maybe if it's not innately magical or not. I think it depends on if you're talking about magic that's for magicians on social media and magic that's for lay people. Like, yeah, I
Great
guess
distinction.
yeah, because I think for magicians, it's really just if it's a fooling, if it's a cool visual. And again, so like sort of like that's why I think so my magic, people, magicians mostly gravitate towards it because they're like, oh, that's unique, that's different, and that's a good magic trick. I don't think a lay person, or not as much, would go to that sort of genre, but I'd say so like, yeah, for magic, I think it will just for magicians, it will just continue to, or I hope it will continue to be more just on, magicians will appreciate creative magic rather than just an insane visual that fooled them, even if it's not like there. So I hope, and I think again, it's kind of going that direction. I'm kind of going on for a little bit, but I hope that it will continue because I think continue to be more geared towards creating new magic. And then for lay people, I think, or at least what I've noticed, I haven't seen a lot of it. I mostly seen just like a little bit on TikTok. It's going more into like the pranky kind of like science, like, oh, this is a cool science thing to quickly show it or whatever it is. I think it's, or at least that's what it seems like it's going into right now. I hope that at some point maybe they will, like, laymen and magicians will merge in a sense so that it could be the creative good magic, but in the same way grab people's attention. Yeah, that's my very long answer to that.
No, wonderful. And I do agree with you. It's and these branchings, I think at a certain point the branches might break off and become their own tree, and then you have a different art that is just, it will get a new name, the same way that I think cardistry became a complete, cardistry are card tricks, but they're not card tricks. So
Sure,
it's
yep.
so there it's, I think at some point maybe there could be a complete dissociation and they evolve separately. Maybe there is that merging, as you're saying. I'm interested to see what you will do in that field as well, since you are one of the players, the active players. So I'll close asking about you, about your future. Where do you see yourself going? What are your goals and aspirations? In general, I know this is an awful question, but I'm just curious. This is for me. This is not.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I'd say continue creating and creating more effects. I think one thing I really want to strive for is not only creating new effects, but or creating sort of changing magic, I guess, would be a thing. So not only just creating effects that maybe magicians have seen before, but just putting with like a different object, but sort of changing how we see magic and maybe having new effects that, oh, I've never seen magic done in that way before, instead of maybe just the method. I think that'd be something. In general, I mean, yeah, just continuing improving. I'm still a student, so I love learning. I mean, maybe hopefully someday just be sort of well known as being a creative magician, and hopefully maybe having some of my work out. And yeah, I'd say that. And then that's for like the creative side. And then just in general, I hope to enhance my performance. So not only creating good effects, but really finding a good way to connect them and making a good, I guess, story or presentation behind it that will be sort of strong and impact people, I'd say. Yeah.
Amanda, thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate your time and your thoughts, because what you have to bring to the table into the magic world is amazing and needed. We need your creativity, so keep putting it out.
Yep. Okay. Thank you
So,
so much.
if people want to find you, where can they go?
My Instagram, amandanepo.magic. Yeah, I'd
And
say
that's the
that's
place. Another thank you to Amanda for joining us and for talking to us.
Yeah, Amanda, we thank you so much for sitting down with G and just talking to him. And honestly, we can't wait to maybe reach out to you in the future, and just can't wait to have an amazing friendship.
And that closes our month of March.
I'm shedding a tear, not gonna lie.
Hey, I'm about to.
It's been a long month, but it's been good.
A good
It's
month.
been a lot of work, and it was incredible. Such a fun adventure.
If you don't know what the work of this month was, it's because you're not subscribed and you haven't seen the other videos. So subscribe and check out, because we've done an episode on Lulu Hurst. We've done an episode on Carissa Hendricks. This episode was all about Amanda Nepo. It is Women's History Month, and we must celebrate the magic. Follow us on the socials at Ungimmicked. Go listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on YouTube and on TikTok. All of it is at Ungimmicked.
Go to our TikTok. We got some fun stuff on there.
Yeah, it's our social media guru is taking care of it.
We work together. We work together. He edits, I'll post it. We're good to go.
Like, follow, comment, share, subscribe. We love you all.
Stuff. Love you all.
Boy.